Hello and welcome to ET Garage. I'm Eugene Tordo and today's video is going to be about pulleys. Okay, like I was saying, today's video is going to be about pulleys and why you may or may not want to change them, and why I'm changing mine, and different types of pulleys. I will specifically be using these pulleys. They're from March Performance, I believe it's called. Got a box around here somewhere. I don't know. But March Performance pulleys. Got their logo on it. And this will be for my 90 Corvette. And whenever you order pulleys, make sure you order the correct ones. There are different types. For instance, they make two different sets, I believe, for my 90 Corvette. One is with the manual trans, one is with the automatic trans. So you want to make sure you order the right one. And I'll go over the difference. As far as I know, the manual trans comes with a crank pulley and pulley for the water pump. The automatic trans comes with both of those plus one for the alternator. And the reason they do that is these are underdrive pulleys, so your accessories are going to be turning slower. And on an automatic car, when you're in drive at a stoplight or at a stop, in a stock motor, your RPMs are around 625 on, say, a car like this 90 Corvette. Other cars may be lower or higher, but what happens with the stock alternator, the RPMs will be too low to produce enough juice to charge the battery. So if you're sitting in stop and go traffic a lot, or idling a lot in drive, or even in neutral, you're going to end up killing the battery. With the manual car, I guess you don't have to worry about that as much. You just push the, I guess that with the clutch in, it idles high enough that it's not a problem. In my case, if you have, say my case, the engine in my 90 Corvette is not stock. It is a 385 stroker motor with a small cam in it, and he idles about 100 RPM higher than from the factory, even in drive. So I also have an aftermarket alternator, Power Master, that puts out a lot of volts and amps even at low RPM. So I may not be using this. I'm gonna just put this, when I install these, I'm just going to install the crank and water pump, and I'll probably skip the alternator and I'll see how it is. I'll check the charging rate. I actually have a voltmeter that's built into my USB charger that I have installed on a dash. I can just monitor that, or I can monitor the gauge on the dash. Things to consider when ordering pulleys also is, if you want underdrive pulleys, sometimes people will order them for other reasons. One, to dress the car up. Now these, like for instance, these come in clear coated aluminum and they come in black. On the Summit webpage, no matter which one you order, the picture shows a set that is clear aluminum. So be careful when you order. Make sure you select the right one that you want. Black is what I wanted, and black is what I got. So that's good. Another thing you're going to need if you run undersized pulleys is a different size belt. And because I'm not going to run this pulley, I need a different size belt than I would if I run all three. If I run this pulley, I have to get another belt. Like this belt here is smaller than the one I have on the factory. That's to make up for the difference in the size of the pulleys. Another thing I have to take into consideration is that slow speed and idle, how it's going to affect the AC and the power steering. These are things I'll just have to find out. If I don't like it or it causes me problems, I'll just have to switch back to the factory ones. Another reason for replacing pulleys is they just wear out. the pulleys on my Corvette, even though this motor was refreshed, I don't know, over 10,000 miles ago. Still has the factory original pulleys, except for the one on the AC compressor, which I replaced the AC compressor last year, and whenever I replaced that alternator. But the crankshaft pulley, the water pump pulley, and the power steering pulley are still the factory originals and have over 289,000 miles on them, and they're getting worn. And I'm going to move the camera around and show you why I need to, well, one of the reasons I'm replacing them is because they're just worn. But I also had a problem with the belts. I'll show you that here shortly. Like I said, let me move the camera around and I'll show you more detail. All right, about a year ago I replaced the belt, and hopefully you can see that. And I decided to replace the idler pulley. I had to sit on a shelf for a long time. This is a new one, and I'll go in more detail about that. But anyway, I replaced it, and it started to fray on the edges. Hopefully you can see all that. And that was due to a pulley misalignment, and I didn't realize it, but I'll go into that in a second. And I put a new one on. You can see that's already fraying. So let's go to the other side of the vehicle, and I'll show you. I'll go into more detail about this this idler pulley. Now this is what provides tension. If you don't know what this is, it's spring loaded, and I don't know if you can see it here. You can see where the belt was riding right up against the edge. Hopefully you guys can see that, and that's because this was misaligned, and I don't know why. I can't find anything wrong. The only thing I could think of was when I built this motor, I used aftermarket heads, trick flow heads. I had, in order to line the air compressor right, I had the machine a little bit off the bracket to move it this way to align, and it also moved that way, so the belt was on the edge, and I never noticed it. Apparently, though, I had the other idler pulley on, and it never caused a problem. But when I replaced the belt and put this idler pulley on, for some reason it caused a problem. I put the factory original one back on, and that was misaligned too, of course, because of the bracket being moved back. I went and shimmed it out with some washers, and it's fine now. But I'm also worried about the lower pulley. Looks kind of rough, and that might be causing the problem. The crankshaft pulley. So I am going to use that as an excuse to put those March underdrive pulleys on. Another thing I want to go into too is, if you look at this replacement one, this is a DAYCO off the shelf replacement one that you would get at the parts store. I don't know if you can see it. You can see that spring is already starting to rust. The factory one comes like zinc plated coated, and the factory one still looks like new. And the spring tension is still good on that one. So, also it's completely aluminum housing, where this is like plastic on here. And the factory original one, as far as I know, that's the factory original one. The 200 is in better shape than this replacement one, which was on there for about a year. So go figure. But let me move the camera around. I'll go over a few things, how we're gonna get these pulleys off. It shouldn't be too hard. I hope. In my opinion, the hardest thing will be getting the lowest bolt on the crankshaft harmonic dampener bolt, because that goes over the pulley. You have to remove that first, then remove I believe it's 3 or 4 bolts that hold the pulley to the crankshaft. And no, I'll go into more of that. Let me move the camera around. All right, first thing I'm going to go over is like the bolts on the water pump one, which is this pulley here. Before you take this belt out, break them loose. You don't completely unscrew them, just break them loose. That'll make it easier to take off. The crankshaft one, which is, I don't know if you can see it down there or not, way under there. Breaking the harmonic dampener bolt can be a problem, because the engine is probably going to want to turn. One method would be to bump the motor, and by hitting the ignition switch and using the starter to bump it against it, and that should unscrew it. When you do that, make sure Like in this case on my 90 Corvette, I'll just unplug the power lead to the ECM, so this way the motor doesn't fire. If you have a carbureted engine, you might want to disconnect like the ignition coil or something like that so it doesn't fire. So that will be the most difficult part, is getting that lower pulley. So let's get into it. If you ever remove the belt on one of these, you put a 1/2-inch drive wrench on there and release the tension by pushing on it. They make a special bar. The longer the bar, the better. It makes it easier. I just use a regular 1/2-inch ratchet. I'm able to do it that way. If it gets hard, you can stick like a bar over the end of that, and that will give you some extra leverage if you have to. But let's see if I can move this camera around so everybody can see, and we'll get to work on this. Hopefully this will go nice and smooth. Like I said, that lower pulley is the one that's going to be the problem. Alright, hopefully you can see the lower pulley there. That's going to be the hard one to get off. Like I said, I'm going to stick I'm going to first try and get it off without bumping the motor. If the motor turns without it breaking loose, then I'm going to have to bump it. If that doesn't work, then the car needs to be jacked up, the torque converter cover removed, so I can access the torque converter and the flex plate, and then stick something, and they actually make a tool that will lock up the flex plate or flywheel if you have a manual transmission, that you can bolt on, and that keeps the motor from turning. I don't have one of them. I'll just stick like a screwdriver in one of the holes in the flex plate and turn the motor till that catches up against something and keeps the motor from turning. Hopefully I don't have to do that. If you have like this original motor and that bolt's been on there for 35 years, you're probably gonna have problems. This one, like I said, I think it was about 10,000 miles ago I refreshed this, so that shouldn't come out too bad, hopefully. And removing the water pump pulley first makes it easier to reach, so let's get to doing that, I guess. Alright, I didn't catch it on film, but it went real easy. That's the harmonic dampener bolt that goes over the pulley. I'll get in more detail there in a second. But that came right off. Now the problem is, another problem I have, when I torque this back on, the motor's going to want to turn. So I'm going to have to, I might have to get underneath the car and still get underneath the car and lock up that flex plate when I torque it. But that will be another bridge when I cross it. So put that out of the way for now. Oh, another thing is, like, I use a this is a 5/8 inch 12-point bolt. This is aftermarket. I can't remember what size the factory one is. I believe, I'm gonna have to look up the specs, but I believe this gets torqued to 65 foot-pounds when I torque it back on. Now there's 3 more bolts I got to get off. That should go pretty easy. When I took it off, I used a I tried doing it with the 1/2-inch breaker bar, but the breaker bar I have sticks way out, and I had some clearance issues, and it kept falling off. So I used the 1/2-inch ratchet, a bar, and then I just laid it in there, hit the key, and I got lucky, and it spun right off, real nice and easy. So I got lucky there. Hopefully those other 3 bolts will come off real easy. those I shouldn't have to worry about the motor turning. Those should come right off. The new pulleys come with new fasteners, and it gives torque specs for different size fasteners. So let me get that lower one off, and then we'll compare pulleys. All right, I'm not sure how well you can see here, but I managed to get the one bolt and get that loose. And then there's another bolt right across here where I should be able to reach it. And then a bottom bolt, in order for me to reach that, I'm going to probably rotate the motor. So I'll have to bump that over. Let me see if I can get this other bolt. Yep, there we go. These suckers are on there good and tight. All right, I ran into my first problem. Getting that pulley out is going to be a problem. So I should be able, hopefully, remove the idler pulley completely, and that should get it out. So let me get this out of the way, and hopefully that pulley will come out. Otherwise, I'm going to have to remove the water pump. I really don't want to do that. All right, the pulley is off. Not sure what the weight difference is, but this is just slightly lighter, even though it's aluminum. It's not that much lighter. So if you're thinking you're gaining some type of rotational mass advantage, I doubt it will. Now, one advantage to running your water pump and other pulleys slower is it gains you a little horsepower, maybe 5 to 10 horsepower. Keep in mind, if you have the stock water pump, this might cause heating problems. You won't know until you try it out. If you already have heating problems, you definitely don't want to use an underdrive pulley. I have a high flow water pump, so I'm not worried. It flows more than what the thermostat lets go by anyway. If you look on here, I have a bunch of silicone on here. I put silicone between here and the harmonic dampener. And then I'll do it on the other side also on whatever I do with that bolt. Here it is. I'll put that on there too, and that keeps oil from seeping around these threads and around, well, not around these threads, but around the outside between the harmonic dampener. Oil will seep from the crankcase and get by on here, and you'll have an oil leak, and you'll think it's a front cover seal when in reality it's coming from the harmonic dampener. It actually comes from, there's a slot grooved into your crankshaft that a keyway goes, and it actually leaks around there. So that's the reason you want to do it. A lot of people put silicone on that keyway when they press their harmonic dampener on. I always like to do it this way. Just put it on the pulley and the bolt. But let's, like, you can see the difference here in the size of the pulleys. So that's a big difference. And the water pump pulley, let's compare that. is actually just a little bit bigger than this. And it don't have these grooves on it, but that's not a problem that I see. If you look at like modern LSs, they do that. They just have like a bell, and it rides on the outside. It's the same with this. They do come with some really nice fasteners, and they do give the torque specs. I probably am just going to use the old chug-a-lug torque specs because it's difficult to get in there with a torque wrench, and do it that way. So getting it back on and all together. And before I do that, I want to show you something and that you should check while you have your belt off. Whenever you take your belt off, you should always check like your pulleys and everything for play and all that good stuff. So let me move the camera around and I'll show you. Okay, well, whenever you take your belt off, you should check for play. Play in the alternator, play in your, like if you have the smog pump, play in your pulley for your oil pump. Just in case, check for noises. This one here actually has a little bit of a run out issue. It's been like that for a long time. I'm not worried about it. I could see if I can get another pulley. I'm not sure if that's the pulley or maybe the flange is bent, but there's not making any noise, and there's no play, and that's what's important. Same with the alternator. No play, no noise. That's what you want to see. Do your AC. Same with your AC. In my case, that I just put that on last year, so I'm not worried about it. Just something you should check. So I guess if you want, it depends on your car. Like on the C4 Corvette, you have the air cleaner and the snorkel. If you think that makes it easier to remove that, which it probably does, go ahead and remove it. I don't feel it's necessary. The only thing getting in my way is I'm filming, so the camera's kind of in the way. Like a lot of those bolts I would have took out from the other side where I had the camera placed, that would have made it easier. But I guess I'll get putting everything back in and hope everything goes well. All right, I got the first 3 bolts on, and they come with these really nice Allen head bolts. I believe they're stainless steel. Let me check this magnet. Nope, they're not stainless steel. They're coated or something. But I decided to use the factory bolts. Those have a wider area and a washer, and I just felt those are a better bolt than these. If I was trying to dress an engine up on a hot rod, I might use these. If I did, I would add a washer to them. Definitely add a washer to them. I did have difficulty getting the pulley lined up. There's like a little groove on there that goes into the harmonic downloader. I had a hard time getting that in the first bolt. I found it best to put the bolt, see if I can use an example here. Put the bolt through the hole and then get that started first. Once I got that started, it went pretty easy, and I was able to get in there from the other side with my long reach cordless ratchet and run them down and torque them, tighten them up, torque them to my torque foot-pounds, let's put it that way. Next thing to do, of course, is this harmonic dampener bolt. I'm going to put, I need to clean this old RTV off first, and put fresh RTV on there, and then put it in. I'm just going to put it as tight as I can with the motor turning, and that's it. The pulley, the harmonic dampener is pressed on, so I'll get it torqued as best I can, and that's it. If I ever, next time I'm under the car and I have the torque converter cover off or something, I can go ahead and stick something in there and properly torque it. So no big deal there. So I'll get to doing this, and then the easy part will be, of course, putting the water pump bolt on. And I'm going to compare, I'll show you the difference. I don't know if you noticed the size and when I showed you the alternator before, but this pulley, I'll do a comparison in size. It's a pretty big difference. I'm hoping this belt fits. They don't tell you which size belts to use. They should know which size belts to use. I don't know why they don't tell you in the instructions. It doesn't really come with instructions other than tell you what to torque the bolts to. I guess that's because they're assuming you may be using different accessories. You might be eliminating your alternator or your power steering or something like that. That's the only reason I can think of. So let me get some RTV on this and get it in, and then we'll go to the water pump pulley. Alright, the only thing left to do is put the belt on. I'm hoping I got the right length. I looked it up on one of the forums. I found it doing a Google search. And so I'm hoping this is it. If it's not, I'm going to have to use the string method by wrapping like a string around all the pulleys, the same way this would go. And then take a measurement and go back to the auto parts store. So let's get going on this, I guess. All right, I got the belt on and it is way too loose, so I need to get a shorter belt. I'm going to say about 2 inches shorter. Let me go do some research, I guess, and run to the auto parts store. All right, it's all done except for the except I got to get the right length belt. I guess what I looked up on the internet was wrong. So, see if I can figure out what size belt I need, then run to the auto parts store, hope they have it. And I didn't use the fasteners that came with these March pulleys. If I did, I would use some type of washers on them, and I would also put some type of, I'd probably put blue Loctite on it. On the water pump, these would look a lot better, but the ones I have larger flat washers, like I said, and lock washers. Once I get the proper size belt on there, I'll go ahead and snug them down a little bit more. Let me see if I can get a right size belt, and then I'll get back to you guys. All right, it's installed. That is the right size belt. For anyone doing this, that is the part number I used. I will leave it down in the description box. And I didn't use, like I said, I'm not using the alternator pulley. I'm going to start it and let it run and warm up and idle and put it in drive and make sure I have plenty of charge. I don't see why I shouldn't. Like I said, I do have the idle 100 RPM higher because of, you know, the built motor with a cam. The idle is increased via the tune and the ECM, if you're wondering. I don't see any problem. Curious how it's going to affect the power steering when you're at a stop, and I'm curious how it'll affect the AC. I won't be able to check that until next summer, because right now it's November. So let me start this up and we'll see how it does. Alright, I'm in the house editing this video. That job is done. I did have to run back to the auto parts store twice. The second belt was just a tiny little bit loose. So I went back, got another one, and so I had to make 2 trips to the auto parts store. That cardboard sheath that the belt comes in, I put that in my glove compartment, because if I ever need it out, say on a long cross-country trip and it breaks and I need a belt, I'll know which belt to get, because I can't just use the factory belt anymore with those aftermarket pulleys. One thing we did is, like if you ever use one of those belt measuring tools, I haven't used one since I was young, and I couldn't remember how to use it, and the auto parts store guy didn't know how to use it either. So I looked up a video on the phone. It was like 2-3 minutes long. We both watched it and relearned how to, and I relearned, and he learned for the first time how to use one of those belt measuring tools that they have in the auto parts store. When I was young, the only type they had were V-belts. They didn't have the more modern accessory drive belts that they have now. But the tool measures both, and once we figured out how it was easy, got the right side belt, came home, installed it. As you've seen, I ran it, and with all the headlights on, the fog lights on, the radio on, the reverse lights on, at idle, fully warmed, it was putting out about 13.5 volts with it in drive. With it in neutral, it was over 14 volts. So that's more than enough voltage that I need to keep the battery charging in a stop and go situation, or where I'm sitting there idling or whatever in drive. But yeah, I won't know unless I stick it on a dyno, I don't know how did some time before and after on a dyno. I don't know, how much of a horsepower gain. You can see all sorts of different claims. One way I will be able to measure is over time. If my fuel mileage increases, then I know it's working. It made enough difference. I really just wanted to replace my pulleys. If I could have got brand new stock ones in aluminum, I think I would have. It's possible they're out there, but I decided to use this underdrive pulley. I do have a high flow water pump, so I'm not worried about overheating at idle or anything like that. The power steering felt just the way it did as it was before with the stock pulleys and belt. Hopefully the AC will be the same way. That I won't know, of course, until next summer, because it's November here right now. Yeah, I guess that's it for this video. I hope it was helpful and educational in some way. We both learned something, I think. I will leave a link down in the description box to the pulley set that I bought and the belt that I used. So if you ever decide to do this, you'll have a link to what you need. In the meantime, everybody have a great day and God bless.